All right, so today's topic is cultivating right engineering culture in remote teams. And it is a special topic mainly because in our professional engineering journey, most of the times we are working on solving problems that have fixed solutions. We are working on problems that have solutions like A plus B equal to C. And when we start building and managing teams, suddenly we are dealing with people problems that do not have fixed solutions. Every manager, every leader, every person in the team has to chart their own unique path to navigate different dynamics of the team and be part of that culture and contribute to building that culture. Something that at Ajackus, we have been doing it for a while as a remote organization, even before pandemic. So in a post-pandemic world, we could even further enhance that learning. And today, my goal is to share those learnings and make that journey a little bit easier for you. So with that, let's jump into our agenda for today. So we'll first discuss what is culture, why it matters, factors that influence the culture, importance of engineering values, the values that can help you mitigate those factors that can influence the culture adversely. We'll cover hybrid culture do's and don'ts, and we'll finally have a Q&A round. So with that, I want to get started, but before that, I want to run a quick poll to understand what do you think about the culture. So a poll is coming up on your screen. I will give a minute for everyone to reply, and then I will share the results with everyone. So please share your thoughts on what do you think, what can you relate the most with when we talk about culture? Great, seeing some responses. We have a response on every option, great. 15 seconds more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Let's see the results. So great. I think most of you have responded, and given that everything here is one way or the other is related to culture, and you are not wrong. It is related to culture. Anything that helps team and team dynamics can be correlated with a culture. But there are still some caveats that are in the options, which is I want to create mindfulness around. For example, would you trust your team members blindly, or you would want to have some visibility or accountability built into it? Would you engage in a conflict just focusing on what's right, or you want to make sure that everyone's feeling they are heard and together we are coming to a conclusion? Do you believe in just disagreeing if what the team is doing is not right, or you would rather prefer disagree but still commit and make sure the team is getting the right support? So there are these caveats that you need to be aware of while you're building your culture, and that's what we're going to talk about. And hopefully by the end of the session, we'll have much more clarity on how these nuances work. Great, thanks for participating. Let's get started with what is culture. So in its simplest form, in its simplest definition of culture is the force that is created by people to move into a direction of a purpose. It is important to note that the force is created by people themselves. So you are taking care of people, you are taking care of their problems, you are giving them the right support, and they are creating that force that pushes team towards the purpose. Every team has to have a true north, a purpose, an objective. And every team wants to grow, every team wants to move towards that objective, that purpose. And this force is what culture is all about. So whenever we talk about culture, we are talking about how to contribute to this force, how to amplify this force. And that's what we'll talk about today as well. So let's talk about the factors that influence culture. So I have taken an inspiration from Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. There is a dysfunction pyramid given on the left. It's a pyramid, so the foundation is the most important, which starts with trust, which then is about having healthy conflicts. If you don't have the conflicts, then you have lack of commitment, you don't have accountability, and then finally you cannot have focus on results. So we'll talk about each of these angles in depth and how that can help you, how right engineering values can help you build the right culture and mitigate any negative factors that can influence the culture. Okay. So everything starts with trust, and this is not a different story. This will start with trust as well. And I have a GIF to share with you around trust. So here is the GIF. To quickly explain, a father is teaching son not to trust anyone by letting him fall. And you would say, Maulik, you just told everything starts with a trust, and now you're showing that you shouldn't trust anyone. And I see the irony as well. The point that I'm trying to make here is that we are inherently built not to trust easily. Because of our experiences in the past, we are always skeptical of building trust. We want to build trust. So it's not that we don't want it, but it's difficult for us to build trust. If any one of you has heard Dunbar number, that Dunbar number is 150, which states that in a human lifetime, at a time, we can be only close to 150 people. We can only trust 150 people at a time. In today's hyper-connected world, probably you are coming across 150 people on a daily basis, but you won't be able to trust everyone. And it is important to acknowledge this fact that it is not easy to trust, and that leads to a mindful exercise of continuously working towards building that trust and maintaining it. And that's why it's important to understand this. So let's see how we can build trust in the team. So for building trust, the two most important engineering values are reliability and inclusiveness. Let's understand this with an example. Imagine an engineering team of size 10 with an engineering manager. They are doing product development. They have sprint of a couple of weeks, and they do a daily ritual of a stand-up. And there is a release day, and prior to that, they are having a stand-up on a day before. And out of 10 team members, 3 are not able to join. One team member does not notify anyone. One team member notifies saying, I won't be able to join the stand-up today. The third one says, I won't be able to join the stand-up today because I have a doctor appointment that got preponed. So I will not be available till 1 p.m. I'll start my work then, and I'll post my update at that time. In this such simple example, don't you think the third team member who took that extra 10-15 seconds to pass the context to his or her remote team created more reliability by taking that small micro action? So showing and creating trust is not always about taking bigger actions. Of course, when you're helping someone, you're contributing to meetings, you will have to spend your bandwidth on it. But there are so many micro actions that also you can take which can help with reliability and building trust in the team. You have to be inclusive. That's the second value. We just talked about how trust works differently for different people based on their experiences. And we must acknowledge that everyone will build trust differently. We'll have to accept that fact. In the example of a stand-up, if a young engineer is putting forward a point who is newly joined, does not have enough experience, and she's trying to tell a manager that for this particular ticket that's going out in the release tomorrow, I'm not sure if this is done right. And for some reason, because of her lack of articulation skills or mother tongue influence, she's not able to put her point forward in the right way. The manager must support her by responding in a way that, let me connect with you offline, or you can take 10 minutes to frame your point right, and I can make sure that if there is a problem that we can address it before the release. It is possible that her point was found to be irrelevant anyway, but it is important that managers and leaders take those opportunities to make sure that the team members feel that they are heard and their opinion matters. That's what the inclusivity is about. And of course, every team member needs to do that as well, but leaders and managers definitely have a special responsibility towards showing this value and helping team build the trust. Understanding cultural differences, our personal preferences. Sometimes in some cultures, we prefer direct feedback. Other cultures, we would prefer indirect feedback. And we need to be mindful of those preferences and accordingly change our behavior to make sure the team dynamics are always very healthy. We need to connect outside work. We need to understand the person doing the work, not just as a resource who's getting something done or getting the task done off the list. So reliability and inclusivity, these are two important engineering values. If you are showcasing these values, you are always helping build trust in the team. So with that, let's go to the next one. Once you have built the trust, you need to make sure your team is engaging in healthy conflicts. For that, the engineering values that are important are adaptive and empathetic. Consider an example of stand up. In that, if an engineer says, I'm stuck in an issue which I'm not able to solve, I know how to fix it, but it's not working. I'll continue working on it, but it may be a risk for tomorrow's release. And a technical lead has some context on what the engineer is facing. And the technical lead can choose to give him the necessary context, or says like, no, you don't need to do this, you need to do that. Or can even have a very empathetic approach in a way that, oh, I should have noticed that you're working on something that I have significant context around. You shouldn't try this because of XYZ reasons, because of this dependencies that would not make this solution possible in your case. Why don't you try this other approach? And if you really need my help, you can get me on a pair programming session. Like elaborating your answer with why, connecting with the other person's problem and making sure that they are able to deliver to their promises as well. And being adaptive and making sure you are able to help them get down to the problem. Those things are important. It won't even look like a conflict if you are being adaptive and empathetic. You can blast him off saying, why don't you bring this up to me earlier? You should have discussed this with me. You should have had a tech design around it. But you should have a forward-looking approach and make sure that you are engaging in conversations that are healthy conflicts and that is helping the team member, whatever their role may be. Okay. Next is commitment. This is a really important one and a fun one as well. And the values that are important for it is confidence and progressiveness. I'll let you in on a secret. If you are being given a new task by your managers, one thing they will absolutely love is when you say, I'll figure it out. If you say, I'll try, they would accept it. But if you say, I'll figure it out, that means you have taken a head start towards accepting the problem. You will work towards figuring it out. You will figure it out. You'll solve it. You may fail, but you will eventually figure it out. That head start is extremely important and create great confidence in terms of how everyone sees you, and of course, in terms of your approach as well. And as engineers, we know we will do new things all the time. The way in industries evolve, the technologies that we work on today can go out of scope tomorrow, and we'll have to work on new things. We are lucky enough that we have a great community online. We have dedicated sites like Stack Overflow, where it's very difficult to not find someone who is running into the same issue that we are. So we should embrace new challenges, be agile, and progressive is about accepting that failure will come. You cannot not fail. You will fail. The good thing to do is get better at failing, fail faster, fail forward, prioritize which solutions which you can try first, which has lesser chances of failing. And don't lose sight of that target or the timeline that you have. So these things make sure that your commitment towards getting things done is really strong, and everyone around you can see it as well. The next one we have is accountability. We must remain accountable. The value that helps us here is being diligent, creating visibility with whatever we are doing. Use common meetings to share maximum context around what you are doing, what you know, or where you can contribute. Help others with the same. It's not easy for everyone to create the same kind of visibility. In our example of a stand-up, if one of the team members is not able to come to the stand-up, they can also write a very detailed message saying, I'm going to work on these tasks, connect those links with the tasks, connect those tasks with the links on the project management tool. Also says like, I'm waiting on response to this comment, link that comment so it's easier for someone to go to that comment and respond to it. So there are always better ways to create more visibility, and setting examples there is a great way for you to be diligent and contributing to the culture of the team. One more insight I want to share is it's great to act in a last line of defense approach. What I mean by that is, if you are taking up every task as if you are the last person who's going to work on it, there is no one else who will check that task. It will directly go out there in the world. For someone who's shipping the code, it's out going into the production. For someone who's writing a documentation, it will directly go to other 100 new engineers that are going to be onboarded. If nobody's checking my work, will it be still of the highest quality? And if I don't do it right, there's no one else who's going to do it. If you always operate in that mode, you will create extreme dependency in terms of your work quality, and no dependency on anyone else who has to check your work to make sure it's of utmost quality. And you can be ambassador of your organization if you're working at that level. So it's important that you think in this way towards any task that's coming your way. And last is focusing on results. The value that helps you here is curiosity. You must ask the question why. The effectiveness is going to be more important than efficiency. I have a great example to share here, which my IIM professor shared with me. That as human beings, we are always more focused on efficiency. If you pick a random person on road and ask him what time is it, he will be able to reliably say around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. He won't be significantly off, like it's 3 o'clock, and he won't say 9 o'clock. But if you ask him which side is northeast, likely he'll not be able to answer that. So we humans have great sense of time. We do not have great sense of direction. And that's why we need to be mindful that we are chasing efficiency, but if it's not going to be effective, it's not going to give us the result we want. So curiosity, asking the question why, helps us being effective, and also helps us understand how we are creating an impact. It helps us build our motivation as well, and not just being another brick on the wall. So these are all the enduring values that help us address these factors that can influence the culture. I'll quickly summarize it. We discussed 8 values. The 4 value, we have divided into 2 buckets of 4 each. One bucket is team values, because it helps us create the right team environment. And those values are written here. There is a seesaw where the hinge is the reliability. And on the either side, there is inclusivity and empatheticness, which you are balancing continuously. And this game cannot work without reliability operating at the middle. And there is always an environment around us that forces us to change. And that's why the adaptiveness comes into picture. So showcasing these 4 values, you are contributing to creating the right team environment for your growth. And once you have the right team environment, you can be rest assured that you will grow really well if you showcase the individual values of progressiveness, being confident, diligent, and curious. So these 4 are more on the individual side that can contribute to helping you become the best version of yourself, unlocking your true potential. So yes, these were the enduring values. And next, we have a short video on how things could go wrong in a remote work environment. I'll let you enjoy it, and then I'll proceed with the next one. Great. So I'll quickly summarize. An engineer in office gave a code review request to an engineer who was offsite at home, remote, and he did not capture enough context and said, looks good to me, and shipped it off. Yeah, so these scenarios could happen in a remote environment, and that's why it's important that we over communicate in a hybrid culture, in a hybrid setting. Um, but in order, we talked about how the values are helping us build the right culture. But the true fuel of the spaceship that gives us the force is success. Uh, Success of reaching a milestone. And that success is definitely more than culture. And I want to talk a little bit more about it. I'll go to the next slide. So here we have we have created three levels, engineers, managers, and leaders, and how they perform a role in team success and ultimately contribute to culture getting stronger and stronger. So engineers are nothing but individual contributors. So any junior engineers, senior engineers, technical leads, they fall into that criteria. Managers are engineering managers or technical lead managers who are managing someone else as well, along with doing some part individual contributor role or managing the scrum. And finally, we have leaders who have significant experience and wisdom to help managers deal with the problems of today and tomorrow and prepare them for the challenges ahead. So we have divided them into these three buckets. I'll start from first engineers. What engineers need to do more than culture. If you see, the culture is a common element across all. So culture is everyone's responsibility, and we talked about it. But success is going to be about more than culture, and that's what we are covering here. Engineers, they need to focus on the culture, but they need to also have the right context. They need to have the domain knowledge. They need to make sure they are empathetic to the end customer who's going to use the product. They need to have the right collaboration skills, sync or async. They need to have the right collaboration tools and how to use them to the fullest, and make sure that whether they are whatever setting they are operating in, local or global, they are able to provide and pass on the necessary context, have no dependencies, and all those things matter in making sure there are no delays being introduced. And finally, coding. I hope you all are happy to see coding is also on the on the list, because we are engineers, and if you have a problem with that one, I guess that's an identity crisis which is out of scope for this webinar. So that's about engineers. We need these four C's. Every engineer needs to think of their performance in terms of these four C's, how they are contributing to culture, and how they are doing the other three C's, which helps team achieve success and contribute more to the culture as well. Going next, we have managers. And I first want to admit that managers have had the most disrupted role in the post-pandemic world. We have had so many disruptions, and any disruptions in the team, of course, is a disruption for a manager as well. And of course, I'm talking about leaders as well when I talk about managers. So they have had an extremely difficult role past 2 years, but we have seen countless examples of how people have stepped up to those challenges and how leaders have helped managers step up to those challenges. They have to also focus first on culture. Second C for them is cadence. Cadence is a frequency of things that needs to happen, business as usual. Whether we are doing the regular stand-ups, whether we are talking to team members, whether we are having one-on-ones, whether we are doing retrospectives, whether we are doing sprint planning correctly, everything business as usual goes into cadence, and that's what managers ensure that happens. The next C for them is courage. We just talked about the disruption, and this kind of disruption is not new to them, and they need to show that courage to take any head-on challenge that's coming their way. So they need to show the courage for getting into such new challenges. And last is coverage. Coverage is managers' ability to help engineers fill the gap that they have in their forces. It could be anywhere, but managers' primary role is to make sure that engineers are fairly new to the professional world sometimes, or they are fairly new to a complex product development. They have gaps because they do not have enough experience. They have not seen enough. And managers' responsibility is to provide that coverage through their experience, or sometimes getting hands-on, technical or non-technical, any area. And that's what their last C is about. And for leaders, again, culture is the responsibility. but they are going to be more strategic in nature. So their second C is about creating initiatives that can have long-term impact. Identify which challenges to pick up that will give team an edge. The third C for them is character. They must ensure that they are responding to all the challenges, keeping adhering to their principles. It is most important that their integrity is never compromised. And last C for them is acumen. They have a lot of wisdom. They have so much of experience. How they are helping all their team members, managers leverage their experience, that wisdom, applying their acumen in business problems is their last C. You would say that, yeah, that does not start with C. And that's another point that I want to make here, that for leaders, they must know when to break the rules. Rules are made by us and we are not perfect. So we will have to review them once in a while. And it is going to be leaders' responsibility to be that tiebreaker, to make sure that we are reviewing them and making sure we are addressing our biases in the processes and the rules that we have created in the past. So those are the C's for leaders. And together, when these three levels operate with these C's, they will achieve success without a doubt. And that will provide more fuel, more force for the culture. And nothing works its magic better than achieving milestones on cultivating the culture and maintaining it. So with that, let's dive into hybrid culture do's. We need to embrace asynchronous communication. And if you see all the points, one way or the other will relate to embracing asynchronous communication. This is probably the most important point of hybrid culture, but we need to understand how to do it. It is not just blindly applying async methodologies in whatever you are doing in the past. That's not going to work. We have to be mindful about how we are setting our communication boundaries, whether we are documenting the right things, whether it's going to help our remote onboarding processes. We need to broadcast communication. As leaders, they know that everyone will not be available at the same time. So how can they have their messages recorded and broadcasted? And last but not the least, providing the right tooling. If you are having new ways, if you are exploring new ways of collaboration, but you have not provided the right tools, then the team is destined to fail. So with hybrid culture, there is significant focus on async collaboration and communication, but you need to mindfully apply it to your use case, and that is most important. And we have the don'ts. So what we don't want in a hybrid culture, we cannot have a 9-to-5 culture, especially when in this hyper-connected world, when we are working with global teams. If you're going to operate in a 9-to-5 way, it's just not going to make your collaboration work. And this does not mean that you need to overwork. You have the flexibility to decide what works for you, and you have to decide it based on what works for your team as well. But it's not going to be 9-to-5. You just have to agree with that. It's not going to give you the opportunities worldwide and help you make most of it. Async is making the task easier, but yeah, we are learning new ways every day. And for that, we have to be adaptive and flexible to make most of it. Second is nice culture. We discussed how culture requires healthy conflicts. If you are afraid of conflicts and you want to always be nice to everyone, you would be nice to everyone, but you won't contribute to their growth because you won't provide the critical feedback that they need for growth. They would always do the things that they think they are doing right without anyone pointing out what wrong they are doing. So nice culture does not work. We must engage in healthy conflicts. The third one is about busy culture. We discussed how effectiveness is more important than efficiency. We can have thousands of tasks, but if they are not aligned towards the purpose of the team, then you are being busy, not being effective. And that's not something we want. The fourth one is racially diverse, but not inclusive. You cannot have a racially diverse team and not have inclusivity in all your communication. That won't give the right signal. So that's a no-no for sure. And the fifth one is a family culture. This is an interesting one. And I think there are still some companies, organizations coming to terms with it. But essentially, when you are in a team, it is it is your relentless pursuit of excellence and performance. It, of course, nobody is stopping you from building strong relationships, having brothers and sisters at work. If you can build, people are struggling with building trust remotely. If you can have brothers and sisters at work, great, kudos to you. Nobody's denying that. You could do that. But if you are letting that cloud your judgment, then that kind of family culture is not good for anyone. You are causing a damage to your team member, to yourself, and the team, and everyone in the process. You must prioritize performance and team before having a family kind of a consideration. So, yeah, with that, I think we're coming to a close, and I am happy to take some questions from the participants. Let me stop my sharing. Great. Do we have any questions in the chat? Where would you personally prefer, remote or office? That's a question from Nirmal. Thanks, Nirmal. I personally would prefer remote, however, not entirely. I'll tell you why. Because I think we cannot overcome our evolutionary need to connect with others, have good time with others just because we had a pandemic. That's a tendency that we have developed over millions of years. I think it's detrimental to avoid that. So it's important that once in a while we connect, we meet, we don't let that opportunities go for sure. But when it comes to work, yes, today's tools, technologies are allowing us to do everything that we need to do for our work remotely. So make most of that. But for me, office is synonymous to opportunities where you can meet people, learn more about their lives, network with them, and you understand the person behind who's doing the work. That's extremely important for a healthy culture. Okay, so another question is from Fareen. How would you maintain your culture as your organization is growing constantly? Yes, I think it's a journey that you need to enjoy. We discussed 4 C's. In a smaller organizations, you may have more focused on being a manager, being more hands-on, being more closer to the execution. But as your organization scales, it's important to identify the right people that can come in and do that part for you so you can do more important strategic and governance work. And in that transition, it's important to understand how to let go, understand what your new C's are, and what enable your managers to do what you have been doing. Don't expect them to be perfect and not making any mistakes. If you're looking over their shoulder, they'll probably be nervous and make even more mistakes. So it's important to as you scale, it's important to identify those boundaries and continuously engage and enable your peers to do their role well. Yeah, it's a collaborative effort. Great. We have another question from Subbu. How do you promote psychological safety within your teams? Yes, I think this goes a lot towards inclusivity value, psychological safety. It's important that everyone understand their opinion matters. They are heard here. Everyone wants to feel that they belong. That's our extremely basic need. So that directly correlates with that psychological safety. So being inclusive in all your approach, in all your communication is definitely going to help create that psychological safety that you desire, and that is important for a team. We have another question from Tino Valentino. Can you share some tips of explaining to a team member when they are on the wrong path? Yeah, I think it is a great question before you, because Valentino, you are asking that. I just don't want to give them a solution. I want to show them how or enable them to find that right path the next time. And that's a great approach. My answer is going to be that it's important that you ask them the questions that lead to answers where they start doubting the path that they are taking, and see if those answers are leading them to change what they have thought of. So they are learning two things. They are learning the questions that they did not think of, which you asked, and they were forced to think of those answers. And two, if I am coming across new information, new answers, I need to apply that knowledge and change my path, whether they are doing that or not. So you will also be able to analyze whether they are using that new knowledge to change their path or not. Sometimes, depending on the use cases and the urgency of the situation, you may have to jump in and help out further. But it's great whenever the time permits. It's great to take an approach where you are enabling the other person to come up with the right approach or an alternative approach. And you will be surprised to see sometimes they can come up with even a better approach than what you had in mind. Great. We have next question from Hari Shankar. How to be compassionate in team without any deviation on deliverables? Yeah, there is a constant struggle between the results and being compassionate. So I think it's a balance that we have to navigate continuously by asking the right questions, making sure the team has right tools, right capabilities, right bandwidth. And that's where managers' role, the coverage part, comes handy. Because if you want to be compassionate and yet deliver, you have to sometimes get your hands dirty. And that's why that C is very important. If you want to be true to that compassionate approach, you should be confident yourself that any lapses, any gaps in the team's performance can be quickly covered up by you. And that does not necessarily mean that you are going and coding yourself. It will have a unique solution in terms of just doing the necessary changes so the deliverable is met. It's a constant endeavor, and that's how we need to look at it. Great. We have one question from Kavita Jagannathan. How do you handle resignations which are purposely put on for a salary hike, even though a hike was given in less than 3 months? Would you still encourage, or you can let go? A great question. I think we are in an industry which is extremely disrupted right now. I think handling resignation, I would handle the situation before it reached resignation. Most of the times, you would not find a direct resignation. You would find a dialogue. If there is no dialogue, probably the manager is not connected enough with the team member. Otherwise, there would always be a dialogue or around. It's like that. I'm not happy about this, and it goes back to creating that psychological safety that the team member is free to talk about anything and discuss their concerns openly. If they are coming with an expectation of a salary hike, I think as an organization, we must listen that, okay, as per your capabilities, here's where we stand. This is our organization's approach to being fair in terms of our compensation structure and how we can also justify and give you the best. And I think organization must take that transparent approach. I agree with you, it's sometimes not possible to remain fair to everyone and solve someone's problem as well. But creating that visibility and being transparent, I think that makes that conversation really healthy. And even if you are not able to make it work, at least you can say a good, have a good farewell to that person. But I think it's important that we listen to everyone's concern. Because that's important for their growth, and everyone must feel they are compensated well to remain motivated and be a team member, deliver on the common objective. Great. We have one more question from Ajay Kalkoti. You said we would not consider 9 to 5, and why desk time? Is there any better approach than that, or is it best solution? Oh, okay. So I think Ajay is talking about our usage of desk time tool for our productivity measurement. And yeah, I think I definitely think there is a better approach than desk time. Right now, we are using desk time to make sure that the team members are driving the insights for themselves in order to gain where their time is going, and something that I do as well. I also have the desk time on, and I also look at my hours at the end of the week, how much I spent on doing X versus I spent on doing Y. And I think right now that purpose is being served by that tool. It is not a tool that we use in terms of asking questions where why you are not spending enough time on this or that. I'm not aware of any instances where such conversations have happened. But yeah, truly, our purpose is to help everyone be accountable and figure out how they can be even more productive, how they can drive that insight. So uh, that would be my answer for that. Uh, Fareen has one more question. As a leader, what are the challenges you face while maintaining culture in remote teams? Uh, as I said, I will go back to the four C's I talked about: leaders, maintaining culture, making sure the team understands how you are building culture, maintaining your character. There are some challenges that will definitely test your character and how you are responding to it, not reacting to it. So those C's is what I would refer to as a leader. If you are able to have that wisdom to do the right thing at the right time, then I think you are continuously contributing as a leader to the culture of the organization. Uh, and especially in remote teams, the approach needs to be thought through in terms of whether this will help us create the right impact, right engagements. And so, yeah, I see remote as an additional layer on top of what you would do for culture otherwise. One more question that you always have to ask for every decision, whether this will work in a remote first approach or not. And for that, if you have to do some extra steps, you must do that. Valentino has some thoughts. Compassion and kindness should be a leader's values. Any thoughts on this? I completely agree with you. Uh, I I personally would confess I have struggled myself. Being an engineer and solving always algorithms and writing algorithms and problems sometimes hardens you. So you have to work towards being compassionate. But yeah, everyone's journey towards being compassionate and kindness is going to be different. So I think it's all about being mindful, and yes, definitely be compassionate and kindness. At the end of the day, it's about the journey, the experiences that we share while we work. And if we are not able to enjoy that experience and we can just blame each other and raise fingers on this person has caused this, then I don't think that's a meaningful environment that we are creating. Yeah, those are those. Thanks, Valentino. Great. I think I have covered all the questions. Did I miss anyone?
I guess Maulik, everyone has been covered over here.
Awesome. Great.
So many questions. Okay, so thank you so much, Maulik, for this wonderful session. And like this, like even though I don't belong to the engineering niche, so I know this many of the tips and knowledge were kind of universal. Even I got to, as a host, also I got to learn a lot from you. So thank you so much,
Of
Maulik.
course. I must add, I truly believe everyone is an engineer. You are using so many tools these days. If you don't know how to configure them right,
Yes.
you are operating as an engineer, whether you like it or not. So I think a lot of things are relevant to everyone. An engineering mindset is definitely going to drive the innovation for the humankind in the coming years. And every function of the organization will have that engineering mindset and they will benefit from that. That's my belief.
Absolutely, absolutely.